Have you ever been in a fight with someone only to realize days, weeks, or even months later that you were in the wrong? Well, today I'd like to formally apologize to Overwatch. Overwatch taught me to not take sides in pointless feuds, especially over which video game is better. If the last 5 to 10 years of being a gamer has taught me anything, it's that we all have a preferred way of playing games and games that we enjoy, and that every other option therefore must be bad. Every game has its strengths, its weaknesses, and its intended player base. There are cases where there is a lot of overlap, but no two games are the same in most cases. When Overwatch was announced to the world in 2014 at BlizzCon, I had no clue what Blizzard Entertainment even was. I had a Steam account and a heavily played copy of Team Fortress 2 that I had been playing for about 6 months when Overwatch was revealed. TF2 has always been one of my favorite games, and in 2014 it was my whole world. I played TF2 every day after school. It was my way to relax and have fun after a long day of pointless math classes. I thought about TF2 in classes. I used a TF2 loadout simulation website on school computers instead of doing my homework. Needless to say, I was obsessed with Team Fortress 2. In 2014, I didn't know that Overwatch would soon become my mortal enemy, a game I despised with all my being without even playing it. Overwatch to me was some weird small game that was probably going to come and go and never be talked about much, but boy was I wrong. I had learned about some other so-called TF2 killers that had come out before my time, such as Dirty Bomb and Loadout, to name a few. As far as I knew, no game stood an actual chance of putting a dent into the legacy of TF2, and that many had tried, none had succeeded. I was deeply entrenched into Camp Team Fortress that I never gave Overwatch the light of day. As time went on though, and I continued to play Team Fortress 2, I kept hearing more and more about Overwatch, especially from content creators that I watched a lot, comparing and contrasting the two games as gameplay was released for Overwatch. It was in 2015 when one of the first major updates for TF2 happened that I was able to play during. There had been major updates before this, but this was one of the first that I was around to enjoy. I believe looking back that Valve panicked after seeing Overwatch being announced and encouraged more people to join the Team Fortress 2 development team to hopefully compete with the new IP. Gunmetal was Valve's first response to Overwatch, an update that introduced balance changes in an early attempt to turn TF2 into an esport, along with weapon skins and contracts to increase player retention and give veterans a set of challenges. Though I didn't know it at the time, I was blissfully unaware of the massive scale of Overwatch's influence. In 2015, we saw the release of the Tough Break update, a second attempt at balance changes, improvements to the contract system, and more cosmetics. To my knowledge, it was the quickest turnaround of updates of that size in TF2's history, with there only being a 6-month time difference. TF2 was on a path to becoming a spectator sport, and the game had a lot of potential to become one. Its distinct visual style and gameplay mechanics allowed for so much versatility and sick plays with the 9 classes. Another thing that proved that this is the direction Valve wanted to take with Team Fortress was the introduction of the competitive beta pass that was put into the game and given to very few people during Gunmetal in 2015. The TF2 community had so much hope for the game going into 2016 that it almost felt like nothing could slow down the game. Then May of 2016 arrived, and it was evident TF2 would have to put up a heck of a fight to stay relevant. I had played the open beta for Overwatch, and I will admit, only really to make fun of it. I played a tiny bit of Junkrat and closed the game after a few matches. I was convinced this game wouldn't last, and that TF2 would reign. Over the many years since 2016 though, I've come to realize that TF2, though its popularity hasn't really gone down since launch, isn't exactly a top of mind game to the casual video game player. Overwatch, on the other hand, has had millions of concurrent players since its release in 2016, partly due to its innovative gameplay and also partly due to its massive marketing budget. I was upset that many TF2 hardcore fans, players, and content creators were leaving the game to go play Overwatch in droves due to the lack of frequent support and the extreme lack of communication from TF2's developer, Valve Software, regarding how the game was going to be handled in the future. Looking back, I don't blame anyone that stopped playing TF2 to go enjoy Overwatch or any other game for that matter. It was silly and childish for me to think that people should stick to one game forever, when I myself have slowed down my playtime of Team Fortress over the years. Team Fortress 2 is still a game I can easily enjoy to this day, don't get me wrong, but its charming gameplay can only take it so far when there's been a 3-year silence from the developers about any future content. Overwatch to me was a game that I looked at as a rival, rather than just another game on the shelf that others could enjoy just the same as I enjoyed TF2. But there's one more major reason that I loathe Overwatch as much as I did, and that was because of another game that launched in May of 2016, Battleborn. This game snuck up on me out of nowhere. I had never heard of it before, and a friend showed it to me and then shortly after bought it for me just after release. Battleborn had just become one of my favorite games, and I was more than ready to sink thousands of hours into the game just like TF2. The game had a sense of humor that was off the walls crazy and just my speed. The gunplay was at first a bit strange, but I got familiar with it after enough practice. The problem with all of this though is that Battleborn was a walking corpse. I say that as someone who truly loved Battleborn through and through, but to most of the intended player base of Battleborn, the game was dead on release because of Overwatch. Overwatch is developed and published by Activision-Blizzard, one of the largest companies in the gaming world. Battleborn was developed by Gearbox Software many years after the acclaimed Borderlands 2 and published by 2K. By no means was 2K a small publisher, but it was obvious they weren't willing to put down the sheer amount of cash it would take to out-advertise Overwatch. Overwatch by 2016 was the big shiny new game to play, and Battleborn, to those who even remembered it, was that one Overwatch clone that never got off the ground. I was blissfully unaware of the impact Overwatch had on Battleborn until I started to engage more with the Battleborn community, mostly in the Battleborn Discord server. There was so much talk of Overwatch comparisons and why this character was better in one game than this character in another. I felt like I was in the TF2 community, but dialed up to 11. See, where Team Fortress 2 had a legacy of innovative gameplay and time-tested mechanics, being a 2007 launch title of the Orange Box, it had time and space to gather a loyal fanbase that could keep the game running for years. Battleborn wasn't in such a position. Battleborn had to fight for every player that entered the egregious queue times in multiplayer, which drove it down a negative cycle of players leaving Battleborn due to the long queues which only made them longer for everyone else. Battleborn also featured a story mode, which further divided the dwindling player base between those who wanted characters balanced around player versus player and those who wanted the game balanced around the story missions. I could sit here all day and tell you that Battleborn and Overwatch are two separate games with two distinct identities, and I do believe it's true, but it didn't matter to the millions of people who were hyped up to jump into Overwatch on launch day. Battleborn was a first-person MOBA by design, and to some lesser extent so was Overwatch, with Overwatch being developed by experienced MOBA creators and Battleborn being made by experienced first-person shooter developers. I wish Battleborn would have had more players. I think it was a great game that many would have enjoyed, but for a long time I blamed the death of Battleborn on the players of Overwatch. I was mad at them for enjoying a game just because it wasn't the game that I enjoy. Years later, and it's looking more and more like Team Fortress 2 has been forgotten by Valve, which led me down the path to paying $40 for a PC copy of Overwatch, and I haven't regretted it one bit. I play all 3 games to this day and enjoy each of them, well, up until the end of January when Battleborn servers go down forever and I can't play it again. Overwatch was still there waiting for me. No one judged me for loving Team Fortress 2 or Battleborn when I opened up Overwatch for the first time after the beta and jumped into a match. The gameplay had changed a bit, but not much since I last played it, and it was enough of a change to warrant me playing it for hundreds of hours. Overwatch was a game I could enjoy, despite the many years of me hating its very existence. It served as a learning point for me to recognize how pointless it is to tell others that they shouldn't enjoy something like a video game when they're literally designed to be enjoyed. I don't care if you play on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, Mac, Linux, the heck, I don't care if you play Skyrim on your Alexa. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters at the end of the day. So, I repeat once more to end off this video, I am sorry, Overwatch, for the years of undeserved hatred. Though you are a game with its own strengths and weaknesses, you are easily enjoyable by millions of adoring fans, myself included.